I have seen people that get into NYU, and I've seen people that I know, and I know for sure, like, if more people applied, more people will get in. So
Okay, so the first question that I would like to ask you, but before I ask the question, there was something that really caught my eye, and I'll just like to read it to everyone because I think that was the post I saw that made me realize that, you know what, I need to bring you on board this show. We need to learn from you. We need to be inspired by you. So, it was your Instagram post, and you talked about you were celebrating your graduation, and you were like, God did it, master's in mechanical engineering secured, and then you gave us a journey before NYU. God gave you full scholarship. You got your visa on your third try after 2 failed attempts, all within 6 months. I found that very amazing. The resilience. God gave you $5,000 in cash. You had your flights and travel taken care of. And then during your school experience as well, you had a lot of experiences serving on the board. You were a finalist for an innovation accelerator. You were a champion for a designpreneur hackathon. It's just a lot of things. You started your company while in school. You started your second company when you were done. And basically, it just feels like you're well achieved, especially in the scholarship and entrepreneurship space. So what I would like to ask, I know that a lot of people here who might be inspired by this and they might be where you were maybe 5 years ago. So I'd like to know, for everyone here, 5 years before this moment, did you think that this was going to be what your resume would look like in terms of you being a recent graduate, fully funded in NYU and having all of these achievements? Did you think you were going to be in this space 5 years before now?
let's see. We're trying to do like a walk down memory lane to see where I was 5 years ago. So 5 years ago was probably 2016, and I was doing my internship, and I know for the longest time, like, I knew I wanted to get like a master's degree, and like I knew like a scholarship would be like a. So yeah, so sometimes we have goals and we write them down, but the thing is that most times we don't have any idea how fast those goals can be realized. And the truth is that like 80, or in my case 80% of the time that like I hit a new milestone and I hit a new goal on track with my expectation, or probably even faster, it had more to do with God's grace, than like my own like input. Not saying like there are not things you could do on your own path to like hit those targets, but back to your question, yes and no for some of the things. Like, I knew it wasn't my goals to like get a master's degree. It was my goals to like start a company. But like then the smaller things along the way, like serving on this board or winning this competition or that, like I don't remember sitting down and writing my goal in the next 5 years would be to win the entrepreneur hackathon or be a finalist at this competition, because frankly I didn't know those competitions existed. But yeah, that's the answer.
Okay, so is it right to conclude that you believe that one of the factors that brought you to this moment is grace?
Yeah, God's grace definitely a key part, but like also like goals. Like, it would shock you to find that most people don't have goals. Most people mistake dreams and wishes for goals. A goal is measurable and it has an expected timeline. So, and it's quantifiable. So, for example, one of the easiest examples I always use to differentiate between a goal and a wish. A wish is, I want to lose weight. A wish is a little bit better, probably something like, I want to lose weight in December. A goal, on the other hand, is by December 22nd, I want to weigh 120 pounds. That's a goal. It's measurable. So December 22nd, you get on that scale and you'd either have met your goal because it's measurable and quantifiable, or not. Because if you just say, I want to lose weight, let's say maybe you're 250, and then the bottom second, you end up weighing 249, you have lost weight, you have lost 1 pound. But because you didn't define the scope of your goal, you end up. So basically, and that thing I always say is, vague expectations produce vague results. If you have vague wishes, not goals, you would have vague results in the end. And that key thing that I've been doing for the past 5 years. So for the past 5 years, I've been actively journaling and like goal setting. I have about 4 or 5 journals I've been using over the past 5 years. So yeah, I think that plays a role.
Okay, so I want to talk about your country, obviously, the country that you got your scholarship. USA, Canada, UK, they are kind of like some of the most popular destinations for people who are seeking to study abroad. Why did you choose USA, and why do you think anybody should choose USA for their scholarship dreams or study abroad dreams?
All right, so I'm going to answer them as 2 separate questions. Number 1, why I chose USA. Number 2, why I think anybody else should choose USA. So the first one, I did not choose USA. I didn't want to come here. I wanted to go to Canada. So I applied to three schools in Canada: University of Toronto, University of Waterloo University. I really can't remember the third one, but like it was 3 top engineering schools in Canada. And I was pretty cocky and confident I was going to get into those schools. I finished my first degree with a first class, good one. I had like a couple of other achievements here and there, things I built. So with University of Toronto, like I got in touch with like the head of admissions for the mechanical engineering department. We had a whole email chain going. There was a time he wanted me to switch he just told me, see, because there was 2 types of applications. There was the coursework based and the research based. The research based was always funded. They have more funds to give for scholarship and stuff. And the coursework was more of the pay itself. So I wanted research based. But like getting closer to the admission time, he just sent me an email like, see, we're going to consider domestic students first for research based. My advice is, if you want to take my advice would be, go for coursework. You have a good transcript and everything. And then I said, okay, fine, I'll go for the coursework. And then he copied my response on that email to the admission office. And so in my mind, I was like, University of Toronto is in the bag, because backstory to that, my employer then was the one that, because he's an alumni of University of Toronto, he was the one that connected me to the person I was speaking to. So I was like, it's in the bag. So when like finally the admission decisions came in and I didn't get into any of those schools. In fact, I think the third school kind of like never got back. Like they never put like a decision on the application till last time I ever checked. So exactly, I was like shocked. I didn't really like see myself not being able to get into any school I wanted. So so that was like, for context, I did all my applications during my NYC year.
Okay.
So by September, October of 2018, I had gotten all the feedback from the Canadian school that I was not getting to a Canadian school. So by then I was just like, it's a wrap. But earlier that year, and for the Canadian schools, I didn't use a JARI to apply to any of the schools, but they didn't need a JARI or an IELTS either. I didn't use any of those. They didn't require any of those too. So earlier 2018, precisely April 2018, I wrote my JARI, and on the exam day, you have to send you put in 4 schools where you want your scores to go to. So I put in 4 of the top schools I had on my radar in the US, just because I put in NYU, I put in MIT, Texas A&M, UC Berkeley in California. And then after like the whole saga that happened in Canadian schools in September, around October, I get an email from NYU, and the email basically says, "We received your GREs because we've checked our system and you don't have an application. Please apply," with the link. So I started the application process. They needed GRE, they needed IELTS. I had both of them already, but my IELTS was the general one, not academic. So I reached out and I was like, "See, the IELTS I have is general, not academic." They were like, "It's fine, we'll still accept it." Then sent all that stuff. Then I think, well, what then happened? So all these other applications I've been paying. Like I had like a card I was using to pay for those applications, $80 here, $100 here, $60 here. So by the end of NYU, I was just like, I just don't have energy. Especially after being shocked by the Canadian school, I was like, I just don't have energy to go through this application. So 2 days or a day to the deadline for the application, NYU emails me and they were like, "We are going to waive the application fee. Just submit your application and send in your remaining documents in the next couple of weeks." So I was like, at this point, all
Did they give a reason for the waiver though?
what do you say?
Did they give a reason for the waiver?
Nope, we didn't. Basically, the reason the email, if I remember correctly, was about we don't want to be an issue that stops you from completing your application. So we're waiving the application waiver fee, which was like, then it was $90 or so. I really can't remember. I sent in my documents. Long story short, I got to NYU. We'll talk about the scholarship part later. Then the second question is, why would I advise someone to come to the US over Canada and the UK? The US simply put has more opportunities. The economic activity of New York City alone beats the economic activity of Canada as a whole. So yes, the US frankly just has more opportunities. And then for like
do you mean in terms of like job and post-study, or
in terms of anything you want to do in life generally, US just has more opportunities. For somebody in STEM, you have 3 years of work permits after your degree. For somebody in any other field that is not STEM, you have just 1 year of work permits, which during that 1 year, you can get a company to sponsor you for your H-1B, which is your work visa. And with your H-1B, is a dual intent visa. You can use that to apply for your green card. So there's a clear path to whatever you want to do. And like I said, more opportunities here. I was able to start my first actual company while as a student in NYU, and I was able to go to investors here during the pandemic that I had never met before and raise money. And I raised my pre-seed round in December. So frankly, there's opportunities here for anything you want to do. And there's, especially coming from NYU, which is currently like number 9 in the US, it's the opportunity is cool like that gives you. Like at some point, it will be like if you don't make the best out of it, it's really on you. Yeah. So those are my answers to those 2 questions.
Okay, let's just go straight into the scholarship in itself. The first thing I'd like to know is, okay, you applied, you got the admission. How did you find out about the scholarship?
So let me just give more. So like I'll be able to like answer a lot of questions. 1 from my own personal experience, and 2 from my work experience, because the scholarship in question we're talking about here also came with a graduate assistant job. So basically, for the 14 or 15 months I was at NYU, I worked in the graduate admissions office. So I probably have even more insights to like the whole grad level admission processes and behind the scenes stuff. So basically, now let me give it from how it happened, and I'll give you like backstory. I got an admission letter. Funny thing is, I didn't even get my admission letter on time. They were just funny. So I applied for spring 2019. 11th of January 2019, I get an email from the person that would be my professor, and it was like, school is resuming in 3 weeks. You have to select your courses and get ready to pay your school fees. And politely, I was like, excuse me, Professor XYZ. I know I applied to NYU, but I've never got my admission letter, so I'm kind of confused getting this email about school starting in 3 weeks and school fees and all whatnot. And then he replied, "Oh, we'll fix that." And then that was like 6 in the evening. By 12 midnight, I had my admission letter from NYU with $6,000 annual scholarship. They call it merit. They called that one a merit scholarship. And then it was a quite. What do you say?
What's the merit scholarship based on?
Your previous academic merits.
So is it like first class alone or 2-1 or?
There's really no insight as to what they qualify as previous academic merits, but basically they look at your application as a whole, and obviously they score your application to give you admission or not. So based on how much of a good candidate you are, they just give you money, basically. So it's called a merit scholarship. So mine was $6,000 a year. I was excited then, because comparing it to like how much it actually costs to attend NYU doesn't really move the needle. But still, I was happy. We tried to rally around to make sure I left the country in 2 weeks. How I was able to get my I-20 shipped from the US, everything ready in 2 weeks, get a visa date in 2 weeks is still a mystery. But I didn't get the visa, so I had to defer my admission. That was January. I deferred my admission to fall of 2019, which is like September, August start date. And then in February, one weekend on Thursday night, going to Friday, I was playing game late at night with my cousin, and I just got an email. You've been selected for the African Opportunity Scholarship, which 100%. The way it was worded was nine credit admission per semester, but the expectation for every international student is 9 credits per semester. So it was basically 100% scholarship, like tuition free. And then they said I was getting a job as well. I didn't apply for the scholarship. I frankly never knew it existed.
Wow, like a miracle.
Yeah, so I just accepted it pretty much. Yep.
So you said you've worked in admissions. So obviously now that you're an insider, for someone who is trying to replicate the same process, what do you think was the criteria that influenced them to send you that email?
So the first thing about NYU from the process is that every single person that applies is automatically vetted for all the possible scholarships. Like we have a financial aid office and a financial aid person within the admissions office. So every single application, every single person that applies, I think people that get accepted. So every single person that applies and gets accepted is automatically vetted for any possible scholarships. And I believe NYU has a plethora of like different types of scholarships, in addition to the merit scholarship, which almost everybody gets. So the merit scholarship in general, I think I've seen it range from $6,000 a year to, I think the highest I've seen anybody get is $9,000. So I've seen it range from $6,000 a year to $9,000 a year. And for the African Opportunity Scholarship, I know that there are 4 slots every year. 2 slots are for full-time scholarship, and 2 slots are for 50% scholarship.
Okay.
And the other thing because I had access to everybody's application, so I just started pulling people's applications and just reading through them and trying to figure out what the criteria was. One thing I can say now from everything I've seen and know, and there's no way to fact check it because there's no external facing criteria or for this scholarship. But one thing I can say is that the GRE score is probably high breaker, and they probably give it to the top for GRE scores from Africa for the African Opportunity Scholarship. That what my best hypothesis would be for that. But in my advice for getting a scholarship in general is, especially for people like us, people from Nigeria, people from Africa, people with diversity, these top schools, they've made their name. They have the best people, literally the best people from all around the world applying every year. The acceptance rate in general is, to get into NYU for grad school, is 23%.
Oh.
So roughly estimating, only 2 out of every 10 applications get into NYU for grad school. So what they're also looking at, apart from diversity, is community change makers, people that are going to impact their several communities, people that are going to become leaders in their fields, leaders back home in their country. They want to be able to say, in the next 15, 20 years, the president of this country, or the CEO of this company, or this actor or this actress is an alumni of NYU. So they try to reverse engineer the process and make sure that they have people that fit that criteria in their school, which means if they have to offer a scholarship to the best people that fit those criteria, they will. That being said, you as an applicant have to be able to communicate that you are the person they are looking for that fits this criteria in your application. And one way you can do that is to have a good story and synergy across all your application materials. I'll use myself as an example. I'm very much into drones and drone technology. I've been building and flying drones since 2016. So my whole application to NYU was centered about drones being my passion and something that I know very much about, and I've been practically involved in it. And as of 2018, 2019, when I was applying to NYU, I had started a small group. I think I had a tweet that went viral, something like that. And I had formed a small group of students that I was teaching about drone technology for free. And then when I was in Lagos, I started like a drone recreational startup. So all that was in my SOP, statement of purpose.
Okay.
Talking about my background, the things I'm doing now, the things I've done with drone technology, and the things I want to be able to do in the next couple of years with drone technology or technology in general, given that I get into NYU. And then where synergy comes in is that the letters of recommendation that I got from my HOD, lecturers, everybody that sent in letters of recommendation ties in with my statement of purpose. So he's a good boy, he works hard, I know him, I can vouch for him.
I know.
If you ever get that kind of letter of recommendation, it is doing you more harm than good. Because they are trying to know you beyond like facts and figures. They want to know your personality, your drive, your motivations, and they want to see that the motivations people can see externally from working with you, to the point that they can recommend you, tie into what you say you are about.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, "Oh, my passion is drones and drone technology," and people that are referring you are either not saying anything about it, number one, which means it's not a
Red flag, yeah.
red flag, or number two, they say your passion is something completely different. Say, "Oh, he's passionate about oil and gas and drilling automation." Red flag. One of you is lying, and it could not only affect your chances to get a scholarship, it might as well affect your chances of getting into the school in the first place. So having that synergy of purpose across application materials, like if you're saying you're building drone technology, your transcript are saying that you are excellent in all those courses that are required to be able to do this. Your projects you've done are related to drone technology. People that refer you are talking about how you're passionate with drone technology and how they've worked with you on projects related to drone technology. So when all this is in synergy, you have the best chance of A, getting in, and B, getting a scholarship.
Okay, that is fantastic, and that makes a whole lot of sense. Just to break it down to make it a little clearer. So, from what I can understand, you got the scholarship more from your application, so you did not have to create a separate application. So I feel like it's good for us to zoom in on the actual application process. You've mentioned that you had statement of purpose, you've mentioned references, you've mentioned, I think, the GRA. Is there any other thing that people need to submit as well?
So, proof of English,
Okay.
IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo English test. You have your GRE, you have your transcript, you have your proof of degree, you have at least 2 letters of recommendations. They will accept 3, but really they only need 2.
Academic and professional, or just academic for the recommendations?
It wasn't specified. You could use either one of those fields. I use academic for both of mine. I think those are the core requirements. Some courses, some programs within NYU. I can only really speak for the engineering school because NYU is very broad. We have about 25 locations all around the world, including Ghana. So it's massive. So I can only speak for the engineering school, the one in the US, because we have an engineering school in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, and Shanghai as well. Speaking for the engineering school, which is the main one in the US, some programs, however, have some. In addition to the things I already mentioned, they have some other extra requirements. Like, for example, finance engineering might say do a 1-minute video, talking about whatever, and include that link. So aside the base things I require, I mentioned some specific programs, not a lot, less than 3 probably, have 1 or 2 line items that they request or require in addition to the standard criteria for applications.
Okay, so I want to ask as well, because I know there are a lot of people that they kind of found their passion after they were done with school. So do you think that people whose passion, whose referees, whose work experience, and whose the things that they aim to do, the people that these things are different from their first degree, do they have a lower chance, or how can they offset that red flag in quotes? Because you mentioned the importance of transcripts. Okay.
Sorry to cut you short. Like, if your passion is different from your first degree, it's not a red flag.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, if your passion ties into your first degree is good, but what's the red flag? If your passion that you are talking about in your SOP does not reflect any other place in your application, it's not in your transcript, it's not in your proof of degree, it's not, most importantly, in your result of recommendation, then it's a red flag. There should be at least multiple touch points for whatever you say your passion is. So I don't see nothing wrong with studying chemical engineering for your first degree, but now your passion is technology and you're applying for management of technology at NYU. Nothing wrong, nothing red flag about that at all. Even when you're going for a visa interview, there's no red flag about that. But you're talking about purpose. If you say your purpose for switching from the chemical engineering field to more technology based on the jobs you are doing in Nigeria or wherever you're based, you find out you enjoy it more and you want to get a degree to further yourself in this field, fine. Then in that case, factually thinking and speaking, it would make more sense for you to then bring somebody from your industry that you've worked with to be a letter of recommendation, other than somebody from your first degree who can also talk about chemical engineering.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you for that clarity. Aside from this lack of synergy, what other mistakes do you think that people applying to NYU make that might truncate their chances of being selected?
I won't call it mistakes.
Okay.
So that bottom line out, NYU is just a top school and they want the best people. And if you just don't meet that bucket, you won't get in. That's like the easiest way to put it. But I won't flat out say the bar is lower for us, but there's a certain quota they're trying to meet for diversity. So we probably overlook some things. Not overlook, but like they are trying to fill that quota. People coming from this part of the world, as opposed to how they would handle applications from people coming from India or any other place in Asia, because they are a lot at the engineering school at the grad level. So people coming in from there to be more like first come, first serve, the extremely best of the best of the best as well. Because another thing they do is that there's two application deadlines. The first one is called the priority deadline and the actual deadline. So, give an example, if you are to apply for fall 2022, the priority deadline would be the application will open up sometime in September.
Okay.
The priority deadline would end November 15th or December 15th. The actual deadline would be February 15th next year. What's priority deadline? As the name implies, people that apply before the priority deadline, the applications will be given priority and they will get earlier application decisions.
Okay.
Yep. So the chances of getting in are extremely higher when you apply before the priority deadline.
Okay, so before I move into people's questions, I just have one more question for you, and it will be, what is your biggest lesson that you learned from your application process to get into scholarship?
You can't win the lottery if you don't buy the tickets.
Okay, I like that actually. Okay, so for external questions, guys, you can drop your questions if you have any questions for him, but there are some questions here already that people asked, and I could also read out some of your questions. Okay, so the first one is, to you, what is the most important step in this scholarship application? I think it's the...
So again, in my own case, there was no separate scholarship application. So I'm just going to answer that question as the most important or the important step in the application in general. Be as prolific as possible. Be the person they want to have at their school. They invest millions of dollars every year traveling the world. NYU travels to Nigeria every year. Last year didn't come because of COVID. The admission team, marketing team has a budget of traveling all over the world to get the best students from all over the world. All you have to do is be the person that they are looking for. Some people people are not really quite good at portraying themselves.
Because there are people that are really good but can't communicate it.
And two, there's some people that are good, but are frankly just afraid of trying.
True.
Yeah, I've seen people that get into NYU, and I've seen people that I know, and I know for sure, like, if more people applied, more people will get in. So one of the things I personally did over the past year was that I was on my own personal time, and for no charge at all, I was actively holding one-on-one sessions and helping people get into NYU. I was able to get 6 people into NYU, and 5 of them are arriving in New York next month from Nigeria. I've
had people that I see that they are really phenomenal and they have everything going for them, but it just feels like they are missing the mark. They're just missing something, and it just feels like they just need that extra step. Well, hopefully they would see this video and get some lessons from it. So the next question is, the whole process seems really intensive. Where do you advise that I start from? What should be my first step?
That's a very good question. One of my cousins told me earlier, one time master application process. Getting the the application process is a job on its own, and it's a full-time job. So it's not one of those things that you just sit down and then the day you hear about Fulani headsmen, you're like, I want to leave this country, and then you stay here for 2 hours and apply to as many schools as possible. It's going to get you nowhere. It has to be like, well, like I said, goals. You can't wish it to happen. You can't kind of sort of want it. You can't only remember it when gold price goes up or when Naira falls down. Because frankly speaking, I know a lot of people that, they only remember to work on the application or do the steps outlined here whenever there's a frantic bad news in the country. So it's a full-time job on its own. It's not hard. I don't believe anybody needs an agent to get into any school. It's just frankly people's fear, and in most cases ignorance, that is giving agents a place in the ecosystem to make money. So you just have to be really intentional. My advice is, first things you start with before you apply to any school, get all your standardized exams out of the way. Whether it is required, some people are not afraid of writing exams. That's just the truth. Some people don't like your exam. They want to apply to all the schools that don't require GRE and don't require IELTS. And the truth is, all the schools that don't require GRE and don't require IELTS, you have a lower chance of getting any scholarship or getting if that case. Because then, if there is no standardized exam for you to show how you rank with other applicants, then what makes you better than the next applicants, academically speaking, if they can't really directly compare your academic standing? So be intentional. First step I would advise you to do, anybody that's starting, is get all your standardized tests out of the way, whether it's required for the main school you wanted to go get into or not. My case being, it also helps in your research down the line. If you've taken a standardized exam, especially for the US, it shows intent that you are not just casually applying to this school because of what Barry said on the news yesterday night and then somehow just got in. Is that it's a goal, it's something you wanted to do for your career or your whatever reason, and you've meticulously worked hard towards getting in over a period of time. Vague expectations, vague work ethics get vague results. If you're just casually kind of applying and casually kind of looking for schools and everything is casually, you will get casual results. If you're, on the other hand, you're intentional, you've taken some large exams, you have all the materials you need for any school prepared meticulously. You have your referral people, your zero recommendation people on standby. They know that once they get that email from the school, they will also upload it. They are ready. If you've prepared like all the things you need to prepare, ready. The application process is easy. It's just about clicking and uploading. But that preparation time, like I said, I used my NYC period 2018 from January to about August, September to get my affairs in order, everything I needed for any application. So yeah, that's my advice on getting started.
Okay, thank you for that. Someone says, I need guidance on how to write an interesting personal statement about myself.
Let me give you like my own formula for SOP.
Okay.
First paragraph, introduction. Something a little bit literature-wise, like your beginning, what inspired you to get into this field in the first place. Second paragraph, you're probably talk briefly about how that same desire has grown through your various levels of education and in what forms they've manifested. And then you end up with saying how this same desire that's from paragraph 1 is still the same thing driving you for this mastered application. And then you end with saying these are the things, the desire you have plus the masters you achieve would help you do. In my situation, I talked about how I was interested in aeroplanes from a personal event in my life, and how over time it led me to do the courses that will enable me to be an aeronautical engineer, and how over time my love for planes evolved to my love for drones, and how I have been actively learning and building drones throughout my academic career, through my post-academic career then, and the things I have been doing already, community-wise, impact-wise, with the knowledge I've gotten so far, and the things I plan to do with additional knowledge I plan to get. So that basically is the formula. It's just, it should be easy to read, it should flow just in that pattern seamlessly to the end. Basically a page or two.
Okay.
If I wanted to watch, do the job.
Okay, so that means they did not have a specific word count for.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Even if they do put an insight, frankly, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to stop reading a good story because it's more than the word count. If the story is garbage, halfway through they'll be like, what is the word count? I'm tired. Okay. Trash. But there's no system that rejects applications at NYU based on word count.
That's new. That's good actually, because a lot of scholarships, your application will even go past the application stage once they're out of it. But that's really good. Okay, so someone says, what was your work experience like prior to applying to NYU? If yes, how many years of working experience will be adequate before attempts to apply for the NYU admission or scholarship?
First of all, nothing I did my work experience after between my first degree and what do you call it? Nothing I did after my first degree and NYU had anything to do with engineering.
Okay.
Because NYU 1 year working at a digital marketing company in Lagos. But I would say generally, I don't think it plays that much of a role. I think it only becomes really important in the case where you're changing fields. Let's say you are a chemical engineer, you now want to be a mammoth of technology. Then your work experience will substitute for the academic experience you don't have in getting. But for me, I had the academic experience for drone technology. I've been doing projects, building stuff on my own. So I really didn't need the work experience in mechanical engineering. Frankly speaking, no shit to the country, but in the field I am interested in, there's really no work experience available in that country.
Yeah, I get you. Okay, someone says, how do I develop myself to meet the requirements?
Simple. By identifying the requirements and identifying the ways you can develop yourself to meet those requirements. Vague expectations get vague results. So this is one of those things, if the person had specified what requirement you are looking to meet, I'll probably give you a more specific answer. But the general answer is identify what those requirements are and identify the things you can do to meet those requirements, and most importantly, do those things.
True.
Because most people just don't do.
I get you, actually. I always tell people that, and you've said that a lot throughout this session, you have to decide that this is what you want. You have to be willing to go to the university websites. Even after this conversation, you have to be willing to check everything yourself and practice. If you just say, oh yeah, I'll apply when the application opens, it wouldn't work as much. So like you said, take it on as a full-time job, like something you really want. And
don't wait the application deadline before start getting your materials together. Start getting your SOP, your standardized test, start getting everything together now.
Exactly. So you have time to even edit and go over it and improve it. Someone
Yep.
says, is it possible to get the scholarship or admission with a 3.1 CGPA?
On a scale of 5,
Yeah, well, the person did not specify, but I think it
the
might.
person is Nigerian scale of 5. So the truth I'll just tell you is your application is not just it's not the admission decision is not based just on one point at all. There are several touch points. If your academic criteria, if your academic standing was the only requirement for getting admission, then the only thing you would have needed to submit would have been your transcripts.
Mhm.
But it's not. So meaning that there are so many other criteria you 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 have to meet to get in. So short answer is you probably can get in. Would it help? Would you have higher chances with a better CGPA? Yes. But because your low CGPA mean you will never be able to get in? No.
Mhm.
Thirdly, is more of cut your coat according to your clothes, not according to your size. So it doesn't have to be a top 10 school in the US,
True.
because the top 10 schools are looking for top tier candidates as well. So if it's a 3.1 you have and you're having difficulty getting into like the top schools, it's pretty much it'll be clear. It's a steeper hill to climb. So you go for a school that is not as competitive.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Someone says, oh, you've answered that already. Someone says, could you give a rough advice on choosing schools in the US?
So I'll give my advice, which is just the way I do my stuff, and I'll give general advice, which will probably work for people depending on like how they see things or how they see life. Personally, anything I do, I go for the best. I'm like, why not me? That's the mentality I have to everything. Like, if I'm going to work for somebody else, why not do the job? Like, why can't I have it all? If I'm going to work for somebody else, why not get a job that will make me rich, make me happy at the same time? I'm going to go to a school. Why not go to a school that will give me the best education, give me post graduation prestige, give me an easier landing. So first thing I'll say is go for the best. Don't limit yourself. Most people, the other way you hear people say a lot is have two bracket of schools. The like to house and the should house. If everything was possible, I would go to MIT.
Yeah.
So you have like your bracket of high-end schools, then you have your bracket of not so high-end schools. And then you also have to select schools. You also advisable that you select the schools you apply to or you finally choose based off the course you want to do and how well equipped that school is for that course. And how prestigious that school is for that field. So those are like all the criteria, and all this information is available online. You go to a school, you go to the department, you see all the faculty in that department, you pick on each person's profile, you see all their research areas, you see the project they're interested in, the research area they're interested in, and then you can even email them. Their emails are all on the website. You can connect with them prior to even applying, just to say, oh, I'm a prospective grad student, considering NYU. I saw your research profile. I've done XYZ, and I would like to work in this same field of working in. So yeah, these are all the things if you really want to be intentional, it goes into selecting the schools you end up applying to and attending.
Okay, I feel like that's actually wise as well, because I've heard people who also got admission to US, and in that connection to the lecturers, they were able to even find out about opportunities and even like graduate assistantship jobs and all of that. So I really like that tip as well. Someone says, what can I do now as a penultimate student to improve my chances of getting into NYU and getting the scholarship?
Work hard. Be intentional. If there's a particular field in your program you're trying to get into, projects. I cannot emphasize how important it is to have a project or projects. Don't go for a mediocre final project. If you're a mechanical engineer, don't go and do the same cassava harvester and maize the husker and what other rubbish people even do again. Coconut crusher. Don't go and design the same project that they've been redesigning your department for the past 35 years.
All right.
If you do mediocre projects, in my opinion, it's a waste of your time. Unless you apply to an agricultural school for your master's, which is fine. But no top-end school, or frankly, no school in 21st century, when looking through your profile, your transcripts, your SOP, look at your projects you've done, because here's a very hands-on place. We'll look at the projects you've done and see, I welded a machine that when you wind it, it grinds corn, and be like, that is my candidate. Nobody.
True.
It works. It was a good project. It already grinds the corn. You achieved your objective, but it is below mediocre.
True.
Unless you're applying to agricultural school, I don't see how that kind of project. So from my penultimate year when I was on internship on IT, I told myself I was going to design and build a drone for my final year project.
Wow.
I came back in final year to my department. They were trying to be difficult with me. Luckily for me, my HOD believes in me. I was like, fine, I will supervise you personally. All the other lecturers had absolutely zero input because, frankly speaking, which is no fault of theirs, they just didn't know anything about it. So, pretty much me, Google, and a few drone professionals that I had connected with across the country and across the globe, that I was able to achieve my projects. Now, having that project in my resume, my profile, in my everything, when I now say my passion is drones, you can see the practical demonstration of that being my passion. Like, I designed and built a drone from scratch while in Nigeria.
Like, that's amazing, actually. We can see it. Okay, so someone says, in applying for visa, hypothetically, if and when I get the scholarship, is there a minimum fund required for me to have in my account for visa processing?
All right, so
subscribe to AFM Stories.
Most scholarships, not all, most scholarships pretty much just cover your tuition. I don't know about other countries, but for the US, where as international students, there is this document which is like the most important thing in your life, even after you graduate. It's called the I-20. For people coming on an F1 visa, and for people coming on a J1 visa, it's called the DS 2019. This document basically has your information like your name, your program duration, and the estimated costs or your estimated annual expenses for that program, which covers your health insurance, tuition, books, rent, accommodation, food, life. Your entire annual estimated expenses is contained on that document. Now, without that document, you can't even go for the center. You can't do anything. You can't come here. So the school will send you that document. Before COVID, they would literally mail that document to you in Nigeria. That's how important that document is. But of course, COVID, I think the Homeland Security had waived that. They are now allowed to do electronic copies. But prior to COVID, it had to be mailed, hard copy mailed to Nigeria. A very sensitive document, very important. So with that With that document, you go with that for a visa interview. And if you have a scholarship from the school, or you have a scholarship in general, it will appear on that document under your source of funding. So it will show, let's say, your total cost of living for a year is $59,000. Your tuition is being covered by the school and everything. So your scholar under the source of funding, under scholarship, it shows $40,000. That means at the embassy, they're expecting to have a balance of $19,000 in your account.
Okay. Okay, I think that clears it up. Someone says, can I work and school?
Yes, you can work at school. When school is in session, you can only work maximum of 20 hours per week.
Okay, I think that's
also you can't work off campus within your first year, within your first 2 semesters. You can't work legally. You can't work off campus within your first 2 semesters. So you have to do 2 semesters first before you'll be eligible to work off campus. 3, to work off campus, you would need to use your pre-completion OPT, which is your optional practical training, or your CPT, which is curriculum practical training. So basically, there's a whole work permit thing that you have to go through, which is a whole recommendation I really don't want to get into. But the long story short is, yes, you can work within your first 2 semesters. You can only work on campus. When school is in session, you can only work a maximum of 20 hours. When school is not in session, you can work more than that. And then to work off campus, after that first 2 semesters, you will need to either use your pre-completion OPT or your CPT, curriculum practical training.
Okay, I hope that clears it. But like you said, you still have to do further research and read about it to get all the clarity that you need. I have just a few more questions. Can non-STEM courses get the scholarship, like creative courses or arts courses?
I mean, I went to the engineering school. Okay. We did not have non-STEM courses. So I don't know the scope of this particular scholarship, but on a broader level, there are scholarships for every program across all the NYU schools.
Okay, someone says, is there anything that you advise I can do as a third class graduate to get a chance to get a scholarship in the US?
I mean, scholarship is a long shot. I'm not going to keep it a buck with you. Scholarship, long shots, but hey, I've seen a lot of things I can't explain. So, there at NYU, there's these programs they call bridge programs. So basically, for example, let's say you're switching to a computer science field, and this bridge program, I don't know how many programs it covers at NYU, but you could do research on NYU Tandon Engineering School bridge programs. So the bridge program is basically like a 3 or 4 month program where they will teach you all the basics you need to know to be able to start this new field. Or if it's the same field you're already in, they will teach you all you need to know to be better prepared to. It's like, brushing you up for that field. So it's, as the name implies, bridge program, bridging between your level of knowledge now and later. And so that adds to the value of application. So, and then we take an example of the bridge program. So if you score a B+ or higher on your bridge program, things like your GRE requirements get waived from application. So that's definitely something that could increase your chances significantly. Most schools have that kind of program.
Okay, I hope that helps you. I just realized that I did not ask you about the visa application because you mentioned that you were rejected previously. Do you just have like an advice for people to prevent them from getting rejected for their visa should in case they get the scholarship or if they go through other funding means?
Yeah, so just to give more insight into that, I was never actually rejected in my interview.
Okay.
I passed all 3 interviews, but all 3 interviews, including the one I got eventually approved for, I was put in a bucket in a status called administrative processing. Typically, that only happens to like 3% of people that apply for visa. It's supposed to be a very rare occurrence. It happened to me 3 out of 3 times.
Wow.
And I know why. So normally at the visa interview, it's either white paper, you're approved, have a safe trip, or blue paper, we're not giving you this visa. But then for administrative processing, they give you a different white paper, which basically tells you we are just going to do a little more behind the scenes investigation on whether we should give this visa or not. And that processing period can stem from anywhere from 2 days to a whole month.
Wow.
My first one was 2 days before the verdict came out. My second was about 2 weeks before the verdict came out. The final one that I got was almost a month, like 30 days before the verdict came out. So, and for my own case, the reason why I was always good at administrative processing is that there is this in the US called prevention of technology exports. So if your course program or anything about you in terms of what you want to study falls in those classified fields of programs, and that's to do with aeronautics, robotics, avionics, mechatronics. There's so many of those fields, nuclear physics, all those kind of things. There's so many of those fields. You can read more online. If your program falls into any of those fields, it's, I won't say a red flag, but they get extra cautious. And they have to like do serious digging to make sure that you're not the next Osama bin Laden. And nowhere on the current DS-160, the visa application form, do they ask you for your religion, because that way nobody can blame them and tell them you are denying more Muslims. So they would look at every other thing around you to try and decide if you're probably a threat or have the possibility of being a threat. So you're a really smart person. You look like you have tendencies to export technology from the US back to your country, even if it's not for negative reasons, then they could flip the script. But like my third interview, even the visa consular officer was confused while I was there the second time. So she literally left me at the counter at the embassy and went inside to deliberate. Like, I don't understand why. And when she came back out, I was still put on that administrative processing for the third time.
Wow.
So if you just read about those courses. If you're in any of those course category, there's a chance that you get put in that bucket and may be denied. So my advice: don't keep a goatee. I'm not saying like there's no way to say that they are doing it because you're Muslim, but like don't. Yeah, it could go either way for anybody. But like, it's really one of those things that happens if you're in those fields. Frankly speaking, if you're in those fields, it's one of those things that really could happen.
Okay, so I think I've exhausted all my questions. I hope I answered all your questions, guys. Thank you so much, Martins, for today. I just want you to give us just one final word for anybody who is just inspired by everything you have said. Anybody that wants to embark on this process, just any final words that you believe will help them on the journey.
Yeah. So let's see. Be intentional, stick to the process. And one thing I just did now to help everybody on this call is that I just dropped in. I wasn't planning to do this earlier, but I just had a change of heart. I just dropped in a waiver code in the chat. So anybody applying to the engineering school at NYU, that is Standard School of Engineering, if you use that waiver code, you don't have to pay application fee. So that would help you waive the application fee.
Oh wow, that's amazing! I just even realized I've been getting some other direct messages. Could you just give us like 2 more minutes?
Yeah, sure.
To read some of them. Okay, guys, I'm sorry I missed that. Ah, mm, okay, you've answered that already. Okay, someone says, is there a range for GRA score you feel one must meet to get in for both admissions and scholarship?
So again, I'm supposed to break it down into questions. Meets would be more directed to admissions. Scholarship, in my own case, is that you have to outrun the other people in your category. So, in terms of scholarship, you just have to be the best. So it's kind of relative to people that you're applying with. If they're giving scholarship to the best two people, and the max GRE score you can get for quantitative is 170, and then you score 168, which is an insane score. That is almost inhuman. You're brilliant. And then two people come and score 170. They will get that scholarship, not you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean the scholarship was not extra. Your score was not extraordinary.
Just means it went better.
It just means that in that year you are not top two. So scholarship to get I can't really give you a score to get for scholarship. Score as high as you can, and hopefully you outscore people that are applying for
to just
same.
Get as high as possible.
Yes, but then generally speaking, for applying, my advice: just try and score in the 50th, 60th percentile. So for GRE, you get your score per segment, quantitative, verbal, and analytic reasoning, and then you also get the percentile. The percentile is so for example, if you score they say you scored 90th percentile, it means the score you have is better than 90% of people that wrote GRE that year. So try and score in like 50 to 60th percentile and above for all your categories. My other advice is the quantitative section, the Asians are always getting like 170. So you really can't, it's really hard to beat them there. Where they lose is verbal, which is English language, and number 2, analytic reasoning. And I think the school pays a lot of attention to prepare for the engineering school to quantitative and analytic reasoning when looking at if there's a tight case scenario for scholarships or anything, because that shows how we're able to think through problems at the graduate level. So yeah, that advice I have to give on that.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand this question, but I would ask. I want to find out if there's anything like an AMAA ID number. Do you have any clue what that is?
I have no idea. I don't do the acronyms. It's not an acronym right now.
I'm not sure you want to answer this, but someone says, what was your GP in uni and your GRE score?
I finished the first class, so I finished with a 4.62 on a scale of 5.
Okay.
And then my GRE score, I scored 153 in over 170 in verbal, 157 over 170 in quantitative, and 4.5 over 6 in analytic reasoning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. What steps did you take in preparing for and practicing for GRE?
I got the GRE practice book, the Kaplan book. I follow this religiously, practice a lot. For your GRE words, I got an app on my phone where I had like flashcards to learn new GRE words on the fly. I did poorly on my GRE. I'm not giving an excuse, but like I did poorly on my GRE because I never really got time to study. I was then living on the mainland and going to work on the island. And if you're in Lagos, you know what I mean. So I did 98% of my studying in graphic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, this AMAAID keeps coming up, guys. You guys might have to write the full meaning because I'm not really sure what it means either. So this has come up a lot. Do all scholarships require IELTS and GRE? I think yes.
I don't know. I don't know all the scholarships that are out there, so I can't give you. But I'm telling you, if you know you want to go for master's program, suck it up and get your GRE and IELTS, regardless of what the application requirement is. Even if they tell you that GRE is optional, it's in your best interest to submit a GRE.
True. Because it's very competitive. You just have to try and do as much as you can.
Like working the admissions office, like seeing the application work ethic of like Asians, Indians, and Africans, it's just the disparity is so huge. And again, the reason why most of them are getting into these schools, they are not more brilliant than us in any way. You understand that they're not better qualified, just have better work ethic.
Yeah.
In like going for what they want. Like they will ask, they will say, "Oh, I know they told me about the GRE. Can I still send my GRE?" Like they want to do anything they can do to be ahead. Meanwhile, us on the other hand, we're looking for trying to do whatever we can do, whatever we can do to not put in our best foot forward. You should be trying to do everything you can to put your best foot forward, not looking for ways to get it easier. So I was saying, applying for a master's is a full-time job. It's not something you can do when you feel like, or when you hear bad news in Nigeria about Fulani headsmen, Boko Haram, traffic, or Buhari goes on the news to say something stupid. It's something you have to do intentionally, regardless of how you feel about it and how tired your day was. I studied for my GRE in traffic in Lagos, in counter buses from my phone. I studied for my IELTS in the same condition. I did all my listening and reading and writing this from my phone in traffic. So, like, you just have to be intentional. It's not, you don't do it because it's convenient. Do it because you're trying to get to a goal and you want to get that goal despite whatever obstacle is in front of you.
I think that we've gotten a lot from you today and we're really grateful. For me, the key lesson I think I've gotten from this is being intentional and don't think that you're not qualified. Go for it, put in the work for it, and just fight for your dreams, literally. I know I told you to give some final words before, so if you have any final words for us before we close, that would be nice as well.
You can't win the lottery if you don't buy the tickets. You can't achieve your goals if you don't set them in the first place. You can't achieve a goal you don't set. You need to be being intentional, taking this serious as a serious process, not like a side hobby. Like every day you're doing all things you need to do. You get all your exams out of the way early, getting your requirements in place. During your application process, email and call the school every step of the way. They will email and call you NYU. They need a lot. They will email you like till you get tired. But you, on the other hand, email and call them anywhere you're not clear. Anywhere you feel you can improve your application, reach out to them. There are people that are in place. They are literally paid a lot of money. I was in that office, so including me then, paid a lot of money just to attend to all the questions you probably have and help you in your application process. So there are resources available to you from NYU before you even get in. Make advantage of it. They have webinars and seminars and meet and greets. and one of those calls where they would make one of us, a graduate student, come and answer questions like this from prospective students. So there are tons of resources. If you go to the events page on engineering.ny.edu, go to the NYU website and then go to the events page, you see all the upcoming events, all the upcoming webinars for different categories. People are trying to come in, people that have questions on whatever the issue is, visa issues, whatever it is, there are resources available to you. Make use of them.
Amazing. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to hear your success stories. The recording of this session will be up on my YouTube channel, so in case you want to follow up on it, just to replay. But I advise that you think thoroughly on everything he has said, set your goals, do your research, go to the website, decide on everything that you want, and I wish you success. Thank you, everyone, and I will see you guys next time. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to drop the link. So you could also subscribe to the channel so that you get updated on it.